Magnus Carlsen, the man, the legend, with a remarkably gifted IQ of 190 plus, is a Norwegian chess grandmaster who boasts an awe-inspiring track record. Just to provide some perspective, Albert Einstein's IQ was 160, which is regarded as exceptionally gifted. Carlsen is a former 5-time world chess champion who currently holds the titles of 4-time world rapid chess champion and 6-time world blitz chess champion. Since July 1st, 2011, Carlsen has steadfastly held the #1 spot in the FIDE World Champion Chess Rankings, coming second only to Gary Kasparov in the amount of time spent as the highest rated player globally. Notably, his peak rating of 2,882 is the highest ever recorded, and he holds the record for the longest unbeaten streak at the elite level in classical chess. Displaying his extraordinary talent, Carlsen achieved remarkable feats at a young age. Just a little while after blowing out on his 13th birthday candles, he clinched first place in the C group of the Chorus Chess Tournament, and a few months later, he bagged the prestigious title of Grandmaster. Initially recognized for his aggressive playing style as a teenager, Carlsen evolved into a versatile all-round player. He strategically deploys a range of openings to make it challenging for his opponents to prepare against him, diminishing the advantage of pre-game computer analysis. In this video, we'll delve into his quick-fire checkmates against billionaires and epic duels with Grandmasters. Carlsen's highest IQ moments have left the world stunned in silence. Come with us as we delve into the captivating stories of his victories, where genius and tactics meet in a mind-blowing smackdown of kings and queens. Starting off with when the Magnus Carlsen crushed Hikaru Nakamura in World Blitz 2019 Playoff Game 2. You have met Magnus now. Let me introduce you to Hikaru Nakamura, the godfather of all chess streamers. This guy not only plays chess professionally, but he also is a very famous chess streamer out there. He's an American chess grandmaster known for his diverse roles as a Twitch streamer, YouTube content creator, 5-time US chess champion, and the current world Fischer Random chess champion. He displayed exceptional talent from a young age, achieving the Grandmaster title at just 15 years old, making him the youngest American to accomplish this feat at the time. Notably, he reached a peak rating of 2,816, which ranks him as the 10th highest player in the history of chess. One of Nakamura's secret weapons is his ability to think ahead many moves in a game. Seriously, he's like a chess oracle. But when the mighty Magnus Carlsen crossed paths with Nakamura in the World Blitz Championship of 2019, it was like watching a deck of cards being scattered. Nakamura's aggressive facade crumbled as Magnus unleashed his chess wizardry. The poor guys didn't stand a chance. It was a crushing defeat, plain and simple. You won't believe the twists and turns that unfold in this epic battle of wits. Let's dive right into the action-packed chess match between Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura. Magnus Carlsen confidently strides out the gate with his pawn to d4. Hikaru Nakamura, ever the seasoned warrior, instinctively counters with a knight to f6. The moves are familiar, like the steps to an age-old dance, the rhythm of their contest flowing seamlessly. Carlsen, forever the maestro of tactics, follows up with a knight f3. Nakamura pauses, his keen eyes analysing the battlefield before laying down his choice of d5. The game is afoot, the pieces gliding across the board, and tensions in the air thickens. Stepping into the limelight is the London system, Magnus' favourite, as he manoeuvred his proactive bishop to the prime central square. The room buzzes with anticipation. Both grandmasters, their brows furrowed, lost in their inner worlds, calculating the probabilities of their subsequent moves. Suddenly, Magnus brings out the bishop to f4 in a bold move, sauntering his piece across the board as if on an early joyride. Not only to be outdone, Nakamura fires back with c5, staking his own claim in the centre. The board turns into a tense battlefield, pieces poised for the skirmishes that lay ahead. Here, the players are in critical moments. Magnus plays his sneaky pawn to c4, and Hikaru is like, whoa, hold up, I've got to think this through. He's all deep in thought, trying to decide if trading down more pawns is worth the gamble, and finally he plays dxc4, disrupting Magnus' master plan. But Magnus is the chess ninja, always a step ahead. He deftly activates his bishop, making his position even stronger, and then Hikaru in response plays bxc4 just like that. Now Hikaru is like better safe than sorry and promptly castles his king, thinking he's tucked away nice and secure. Little does he realise that this very move sets in motion a domino effect, leading right to his downfall. Magnus seizes the moment, boldly playing rook to c1, drawing a metaphorical beard of Hikaru's queen with his rook's steely gaze. The heat is on and Hikaru is thrust into protect the queen mode. Feeling the heat, Hikaru strategically beats a hasty retreat, guiding his queen to e7, but Magnus, cool as a cucumber under pressure, simply plays his queen to e2, weaving his web of strategy even tighter. Things are getting spicy now. Hikaru's bishop bursts into action with b6 in an effort to strengthen his position and launch a counter-strike, an unexpected turn of events, but Magnus remains as unflippable as ever, smoothly shifting his other rook to d1. It's as if he's declaring to the world, no way, you're not knocking me off my stride. It's a rollercoaster of cerebral warfare, with the pendulum of the battle swing back and forth. The game crescendos as Magnus boldly nudges his pawn to g4, reacting. Hikaru tries to carve out an escape path for his knight, moving it to c5, but Magnus gives no quarter, parking his knight on d6 and ratcheting up the pressure in the centre of the board. But the game takes a twist at this pivotal moment. Sensing the tension, Hikaru stumbles into a crucial mistake. Rather than playing it safe and snatching another pawn with his queen on b2, he rolls the dice, aggressively shifting his knight to b3. Little does he realise that this brazen manoeuvre is setting the stage for his undoing. The enormity of the situation sinks into Hikaru and he begins to shake his head, comprehension dawning about the critical blunder he's just made. He redirects his knight to the only available square d7, but alas, it's too little too late. Magnus pounces, pinning Hikaru's king by shifting his rook to h4. Hikaru finds himself with no other options but to sacrifice his knight for Magnus's rook. A desperate bid to salvage the game. Nakamura, hoping for a silver lining in the unfolding storm, tries to stave off disaster with nbc5, but Magnus remains unrelenting, striking a punishing blow with nxf7, sacrificing his knight in a ferocious assault. Recognizing the grim reality of his situation, Nakamura desperately offers his rook to rxf7, aiming to drum up some counterplay, but it's futile. As a gesture, Magnus rolls out a barrage of checks with qxf7, leaving Nakamura's king vulnerable and defenseless. In a final desperate bid to crack Magnus's fortress, Nakamura moves his queen to e2, taking aim at Carlsen's rook. However, Magnus remains unruffled, seeing right through Nakamura's last-ditch ploy. Seizing the moment, Magnus trades his rook with rxd7 for a lethal onslaught. Nakamura's position buckles under the strain. Magnus gains an ironclad control, backing Nakamura into a corner. He snags Hikaru's knight with queen to d7 and Hikaru tries to counter, bringing his rook into play with rook f8. Then Magnus, the board behemoth, moves his rook to f4, effectively closing the door on any hopes of Hikaru launching a successful counterattack. Reaffirming the superiority of his strategic prowess, Hikaru's hopes of triumph dissolve as Magnus' position grows increasingly dominant. And there you have it, the clash of the chess titans, Magnus Carlsen versus Hikaru Nakamura, an electrifying duel that kept us glued to our seats. Magnus, the maestro on the board, demonstrated his strategic genius and perfect execution, while Hikaru, the doyen of all chess streamers, battled valiantly, but ultimately succumbed to Magnus's irresistible force. Speaking of the Godfather, let's turn our attention to the Godfather of the offline game, and his face-off with a young prodigy. Coming up next, when 13-year-old young Magnus Carlsen played Garry Kasparov. This was the match that gave rise to the question, who's the greatest chess player of all time? This was also the match where we truly witnessed the might of the highest IQ players in history. When it comes to being the GOAT, some believe it could be Bobby Fischer, while others argue it's a competition between Garry Kasparov and Magnus Carlsen. Garry Kasparov, a Russian Grandmaster, has been considered to be by many the greatest due to his achievements. On the other hand, Magnus Carlsen is the current world chess champion from Norway. He has his supporters claiming he holds the title. At present, Carlsen is in his prime, while Kasparov, now 54 years old, has retired from professional chess since 2005. Carlsen regularly competes at the highest level, benefiting from modern chess engines and theoretical openings, which were not available during Kasparov's heyday. To compare the two chess legends, it's necessary to examine their careers closely. In one of the only games they played against each other, it was a remarkable event. Kasparov was late for the match, putting himself under time pressure. The match begins as Magnus starts with a pawn to d4 and Kasparov responds with a queen's pawn opening. Magnus follows up by moving his next pawn to c4, instantly threatening his black pawn. From here, it was like a chess battle of wits and quirky moves. Magnus busts out the classic pawn to e3 and Kasparov goes all fancy with queen to a5, giving the poor knight a big bear hug. Magnus not only want to back down, hastily sends his other knight to d2, but now it's stuck in no man's land. Center control is slipping away. Kasparov's not done teasing. He throws his bishop to b4 like pinning Magnus, but hold on tight because Magnus pulls the superhero moves and saves his knights by sliding his queen to c2. Suddenly, both players decide it's time to build their castles, but Kasparov got mischief up his sleeve. He launches a surprise attack, making a pawn strut to d4 and grab Magnus's pawn. Center control is achieved. The game is getting tense, with tactics flying like confetti at a party. Jump to move number 14. Now Kasparov decides to reel in his queen, sending her back to c7. But Magnus isn't about to let that slide. He activates rook, getting it ready for some action. Kasparov, feeling a bit feisty, pushes his kingside pawn to h6, and just like that, Magnus's bishop on g5 gets the memo and makes a quick retreat. No harm, no foul. But wait, black's not done playing games. They move their bishop to d6, staring down Magnus's king like danger lurks. But little did Magnus know he has an eagle eye for threats. He sees the danger, and with a swift move, his kingside pawn marches forward to h3. Jump to move number 19. A few moves later, Kasparov plays his bishop to h2, checking Magnus's king. Magnus is forced to move his king without capturing him due to the queen directly threatening the same square. Kasparov moves his knight in front of the queen, allowing Magnus to capture the bishop and trade pieces. Move number 23, 13-year-old Magnus Carlsen seizes the initiative and decides to go on the attack, moving his queen forward to c5 and launching an assault on c6. The pawn on c6 appears to be in trouble as Magnus captures and trades pieces back and forth, eventually coming out a piece ahead. Move number 27. He also threatens to trade knights for Kasparov's rook on d8, forcing Kasparov to move it away. At this point, Magnus has an active and aggressive advantage over the current world champion. Kasparov responds by moving his queen to g6, threatening to check Magnus. He blocks with his queen, offering a queen trade, which Kasparov accepts, giving him a straight advantage due to Magnus's having double pawns on the g-file. Kasparov then attacks Carlsen's backline by moving his rook to e1, offering a trade. The game is now approaching the endgame, with Magnus having a 1-pawn advantage over the world champions. Jump to move number 35. They keep on moving their pieces and delivering checks, and both players show incredible precision, leaving no room for the other to gain any advantage. Magnus checks Kasparov's king by maneuvering his rook to h1, gaining an edge of nearly 2 pawns. Kasparov responds by moving his rook to b2, threatening to capture a pawn and forcing Magnus's king back to g3 for defense. As the game progresses, a draw seems inevitable, and with a friendly handshake, both players agree to a draw. Quite an impressive accomplishment for young Magnus Carlsen. It goes to show that even at the tender age of 13, he can stand toe-to-toe with the world's #1 ranked champion. Throughout the match, they execute intriguing moves and tactical maneuvers, but in the end, it culminates in a draw. The particular game highlights Carlsen's exceptional talent, especially given this young age. It proves his ability to hold his ground against the world champion Kasparov and foreshadows his potential to become one of the greatest chess players in history. The last moment is when Magnus Carlsen's queen sacrifice wins in 2016 world champion. The moment is from the 2016 World Championship match featuring Magnus Carlsen playing with the white pieces against Sergei Karjakin, another 12-year-old child prodigy and a Grandmaster. The move that ultimately secured Magnus Carlsen the World Championship, and is arguably one of the best moves ever to win the World Championship, occurred during round 4 of the match. Faced with a must-win situation, Sergei Karjakin chose the Sicilian defense, which interestingly turned out to be the only time the Sicilian was employed throughout the entire match. Carlsen, on the other hand, adopted a risk-free approach, skillfully avoiding any moves that could create weakness. This cautious strategy proved to be a wise decision, especially considering Karjakin's desperate need to win to keep his chances alive to win the match. As the game progressed, Karjakin pushed hard in an attempt to gain the advantage, but his aggressive play led to a crucial blunder. Capitalizing on his mistake, Carlsen executed a brilliant move that proved to be the deciding factor, ultimately leading him to clinch the World Chess Championship title of 2016. So what move did Magnus now play? Now let's skip to the climax. At the critical juncture, it seems like he might encounter some difficulties as he faced the threat of several checkmates. However, an astonishing move emerges. The queen moves to h6, an exquisite sacrifice that appears unexpected and doesn't involve capturing any opponent's piece. This move ingeniously seamlessly clears the path for either the rook on c8 or the rook on f5. This was the most brilliant move of the game. Let me show you the brilliance here. For instance, if the king decides to capture the queen, the h8 square becomes available, leading to a checkmate with the rook moving to h8. On the other hand, if the pawn takes queen's black 7th rank, it's weakened, paving the way for a checkmate by capturing f7 square with the rook. It truly is a brilliant and remarkable way to conclude a World Championship match. Magnus Carlsen, the chess prodigy with a genius IQ, has etched his name into the annals of chess history with his remarkable achievements. From defeating billionaires like Bill Gates in mere seconds to outmaneuvering grandmasters like Hikaru Nakamura and Garry Kasparov, Carlsen's highest IQ moments have left the world in awe. If you thought this was cool, the last one is gonna seem off the charts. Magnus Carlsen checkmates Bill Gates in just 12 seconds. In astonishingly swift encounter, Magnus Carlsen manages to achieve a checkmate against Bill Gates in a mere 12 seconds. Bill Gates, the renowned founder of Microsoft and a billionaire philanthropist, held the title of the world's richest person at that time, with a staggering net worth of $76 billion. However, he found himself pitted against the newly crowned world champion Magnus Carlsen, who proved to be a formidable opponent. The game transitioned from a blitz game to an even faster paced bullet game, leading to a remarkably quick conclusion. Having recently won the World Championship title by defeating Viswanathan Anand in the finals, Magnus Carlsen was riding high, with his reputation as an almost unbeatable chess firmly established. The prospect of facing Bill Gates, one of the most renowned and wealthiest adversaries he had encountered so far, ensured widespread coverage in various articles and news channels, making this a momentous occasion etched in the memories of both Magnus and Bill. The match took place in a London studio where Carlsen chose to limit his clock time to a mere 30 seconds while Gates enjoyed a generous 2-minute allocation, since his rating was only 1600. Confidently, Bill Gates initiated the game with the white pieces, opting for the move e4. In response, Magnus employed the Nimzovich defense by moving his knight to c6, prompting Bill to follow suit with his knight to f3, a standard developing move. After a few moves, Bill Gates made a critical mistake by choosing to castle, completely unaware that Magnus Carlsen's pieces were already surrounded by his king. As Gates castled, Carlsen cleverly played bishop g4, creating an irritating pin on Gates' pieces. Following that move, Gates played h3, Magnus's next move, bringing his knight into play on e5, elicited laughter from the audience and even Bill Gates himself as he searched for tricks. At this point, Bill Gates seized what seemed like a free opportunity to capture Magnus's bishop with his pawn as expected. Unfortunately for Magnus, this move proved to be a blunder, and Gates found himself in a winning position. However, Carlsen captured the pawn with his knight, and Gates responded by capturing the knight on f6 with his pawn. Ironically, Gates remained completely unaware that he was in a losing position. Taking Magnus's knight proved to become a beginner's mistake, and it provided Magnus Carlsen with the perfect opportunity to deliver the final blow with queen h2, resulting in a checkmate. The game concluded swiftly, and Magnus made headlines by outplaying the world's wealthiest man in just 9 moves in under 12 seconds. This also showed the power of the 190 against Bill Gates' 160, which is considered exceptionally gifted. This marks the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like and share it. Let us know your opinions in the comment section and make sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again.